What's going on? It's Justeeni here. In my video yesterday, I complained that Waterworld just doesn't have enough villages, and it should have more because I think it would actually be a great benefit to Waterworld in general. And I'm showing a game to kind of prove my point. This was a game where both players actually had good village access, which is really only possible when both players are Aquarion, because that's just the state of Waterworld right now. You kind of have to abuse Aquarion ruins for that. But this game really showcases a lot of the intrigue with Waterworld in particular, a lot of the positional things that change, and working with those small advantages and knowing how to make use of really unique situations. So I'll just kind of get right into things. This was, again, this is kind of a once in a blue moon sort of Waterworld game, but I think it demonstrates how interesting things get when you actually have village access. So in this case, I'm kind of just developing as normal. I meet the opponent, and right away, I've got a lot of village access, and you can see also ruin there. So lots of things already going on. There's going to be some contention with this ruin because we're both kind of close to it. I go marine life. This is just a standard line for Aquarion. They try to go for the ruin, but I knock them off. But I'm not going to try to stay on the ruin because I can only assume that they've got riders to hold it. But I've got a nice 3 villages here. Despite that, I'm actually not ahead of the opponent by all too much. So there is that. They're also doing quite well with village access again. Normally the game tries to balance village access to some extent. And we're both really fighting here, you know, picking at each other. And they're doing really well with the expansion. I'm trying to expand towards this corner, but they've already beaten me to it. I go aquaculture. Normally you want to go nav, but I just don't see enough starfish here. So aquaculture instead. I go for the upgrade because I can't afford anything else. My poor amphibians die. That one gets swiped as well. But I can get some nice connections. Opponent's standing on a starfish, but I actually cannot do anything about that. And you might notice I do not have a lot of starfish. That is going to be a bit of a theme with this game, is a disparity in starfish. It's kind of like getting ruined ift, but starfish guarantee something good instead of ruins, which can sometimes be unreliable. Although in this case, ruins are also guaranteed to give you exactly what you want. They basically act as villages. But I get my crab, turn 11, and I've got 4 cities. The opponent also doing well on what looks to be 3 to 4 cities as well. They've got aquatism already, and again, that's from having a lot of starfish access compared to me. And also, you can see there's something interesting. You don't really see this much outside of the Aquarion matches. Terrain appeared here. Now, I didn't actually notice this in the game, but this is something that you should try to notice. That means that they got a ocean ruin there because it spawned resources in. So that means they just got an extra city. And after I get an explorer, it kind of confirms that anyway. But you know, it's something that you can use. It's not really necessary in this case, but yeah. I go for waterways to get the bubbles. Bubbles are very, very nice because mobility in general is very important with Waterworld, and you'll really see why later. But for now, I'm actually going to be looking to get 6 cities, and the opponent looks to maybe only have 5 cities. And there's this ruin here, which is a city, so that's going to be something we're going to fight over. And you can see they've got a lot of sharks. I don't really have a lot of sharks, but I am getting lots of upgrades, getting my crabs going, and then getting a really juicy border growth to get even more crabs, because I can monument and then use that for more crabs. And yeah, more sharks. They place Park of Fortune now to get a crab up there, and this is a very dangerous position because while I am up a city, and it's a very critical city, it's enough for Grand Bazaar, they have a lot of sharks, and they're ahead in techs. They've got jellyfish, because they've been harvesting starfish, and I see jellyfish tentacles. And I can get another crab at least, so my economy's doing well. That's the one advantage I have here. But units are a bit of a different story. I do have waterways at least, so I do have some mobility with my riders. But they walk in with the jellyfish here, kind of stealing the ruin. And they've just got so many sharks, which makes a lot of sense. It's a good response to my crabs. And since I don't have jellies, which is the counter to sharks, then these sharks are very, very threatening. So I'm trying to set up some crabs as nice defense, but keep them away from the sharks. Just that right amount of distance. Let me get my epic event. I should normally have this set up before the video, but I forgot. Okay, so yeah, the range of these sharks is always important to keep in mind. 3 tiles, 1, 2, 3. So you kind of have to distance yourself away from that because they can attack all the way up here. So unless he wants to get hit by sharks, which sometimes you're okay with it, and because the sharks can't retreat, so there are cases where it is okay to get hit by sharks, but for now I want to keep my distance because they can send in a lot of sharks to just take out a crab. But now they're sending this crab up to take this village here, and I've got some sharks to defend. But is it going to be enough to knock them off? Well, they have a quadism, so the answer is probably not. And they're sending a bubbled crab up there. Again, so many stars that they have to work with. I've got a long-term economy advantage, but they've got a short-term advantage, and they are trying to press that. I send in a bunch of crabs, though, protecting my sharks so that I can use them again the next turn. Trying to get a lot of damage in. Hopefully, after I take that city, I should be good to go. I get a quadism now as well. Still haven't gone nav to harvest a starfish, because I just haven't had the time yet. They're walking in with the jellies, also pressuring this western side. Like, after getting the ruin, they still have all this initiative here. They decide to not siege with the crab, though, and instead siege with the amphibian, which I think was a mistake, because I don't know if I actually can... Well, I guess they wouldn't have the defense bonus, so maybe I unsiege? It's tough to say. I think maybe they did have it, though. And now we can see something really concerning. They go construction, make a wall, which is a nice defensive measure here, because a wall, if they keep the city, will get a lot more than 5 stars of value. But that construction means they are most likely going to be able to pop a crab out of there. And they are getting lots of damage now. I'm able to take out a lot of their units, finally deal with those sharks. Get some damage on their jelly. Take a bunch of stuff out. Take out the crab. Siege with this crab. I block this fish. Hoping maybe that they were relying on that for their crab push, and maybe they don't have it anymore. And I have to kind of barely hold on here once again. I've got this crab here or shark here that their crab can hit. But if they do hit that, that means they're not sieging, and my crab is able to defend. So things are kind of barely being held on, and it turns out they did need that fish, but they are able to take the crab off and then get the unsiege. And I just don't have enough sharks for a good re-siege, so yeah. My crab does get taken out. They get the siege. And it looks like it's gonna hold, but it actually just barely doesn't hold. And now I can get navigation just in time, harvest 3 starfish, make a jelly there, and these jellies are not going to be able to adequately pressure combined with these sharks and all that on defense. I am stabilizing there, but there's another issue that I have to deal with at this point. Because cities are tied, and economy, while I am most likely ahead at the current moment, I have been able to get more crabs going. And I've finally caught up in techs. Well, I haven't actually entirely caught up in techs, because the opponent has one big advantage. They have construction, windmills, and economy is a pretty big deal because it's something you can really leverage because these games are a lot slower with all this empty space. So in this case, trade is going to be massive. Now, I don't have construction, and that's never going to be worth getting for me. And so if the opponent just gets away with markets, I just lose. I'm just going to get buried in advantage as they spam a crazy amount of tridents and who knows what else. And just demolishes me. So I can't let them get markets, or else I will most likely lose. This poor crab is kind of getting butchered by all those sharks. You can really see, like, yeah, sharks are actually quite nice in Waterworld because they don't need bubbles to move 3, and they are so good against crabs. And, you know, you're always getting marine life, so you always have access to them. But I'm trying to make something work. I go for some jellies because they have all these sharks, and jellies are going to be the main counter to sharks. I place my gate power there because I can't think of anything anywhere else to place it. I just grab some stars. They're getting more crabs, which is very concerning. Eventually they're going to set up markets, and this is my play. Hunting archery. I don't have animals, so this is really a pretty big commitment for archery. But I'm hoping that this is the big difference maker, because if we think about the whole dynamic here, you know, sharks counter crabs, but then jellies counter sharks, but then crabs counter jellies, and then we've got amphibians, which are kind of in the mix as well, which with waterways, they can trade well into certain units as well. But archers kind of break the cycle a little bit, because archers are good against just about everything. They trade well into sharks, even though the sharks get the first hit. They just don't trade well because it's an 8-star unit versus 3-star unit. And with waterways, archers can be really devastating, especially against crabs and jellies, which means that this is kind of a catch-all sort of unit. Tridents are also a catch-all unit, but note how archers are much easier to get and much cheaper than tridents. So that's why I'm going for archers here. I need something quick, and so that's what I'm settling for. And I'm going to hopefully get a lot of pressure. These bubbled archers in the west are going to be especially good. The ones in the kind of northeast aren't going to be as good because I cannot bubble them so easily. I would have to stand on a city. You can see just in general, bubbles are not really something I can get so easily. Like, unless I'm pop capped already. But I've got this archers combined with jelly support in case they use amphibians, which is kind of the one good answer to archers that they have. But amphibians are not good into jellies. And right now they've got all these sharks, which kind of are really bad here now. They go for archers as well, but that means that they aren't going into trade, so already I'm very happy to see that. And also, I've just built up a really good setup already. I happen to just have the right units for the job. All these sharks are, again, just wasted here. I'm able to walk in, deal so much damage. Also, their amphibians aren't so good here either. And I'm just causing so many issues. I have so many units built up. Because while their construction into trade line is a bit scary, units at the end of the day are still very important, even on Waterworld, where it can be a little harder to leverage sometimes. I'm able to get even more damage done with my jellies. Walking in, seeing their capital, pressuring their jellies. Getting even more damage. I can potentially siege their city if I like, and I do. I also get a bubble when I siege, which is pretty funny. I sacrifice one of my amphibians to actually open up space. I don't remember which city it was, so I guess I'll... Which city was that? Was that my capital? Yeah, okay. I already had space on my capital, though. But it was pop capped at some point earlier, and I was like, I need more space for it, so I was trying to sack amphibians. It just was the wrong time, I guess. But yeah, they are able to get that jelly defense because jellies deal damage when they spawn, which can be a little annoying sometimes. But with getting all these really cheap archers, I can now transition into spearing because my offense was so efficient. I was able to trade extremely well. You can really just see I've got a nice unit advantage. And I'm taking this city up here. Can't do anything about that. So now I'm actually up cities 7-5, and the opponent still has not been able to get the markets that they should have been able to get. Because had they gone that and leveraged that, it would have just been over for me. But now I can get tridents, and these are going to be super nice in combination with especially jellies. Tridents and jellies is just such a good combo. But you know, the extra movement and extra attack compared to archers, and you keep them nice and safe, is just so much value. And the opponent is hanging on here. They've got enough jellies just to hold on, but that's kind of it. And eventually, with my city advantage here, I can leverage that. I'm able to get a nice siege here, block with the crab and the amphibian, because why not? And they actually cannot deal with that either. And I'm continuing to clear out units, plus with the tridents that are going to be walking in. You can see like my population's been pretty capped because I just have so many units. That's the thing that happens also more often on Waterworld because there's more space and less cities. So usually you need more units per city. And I am able to get the win here. The really interesting, one of the most interesting Waterworld games I have. And again, most of it's just because we actually had villages. Total on this map was 12 cities, so at one point we both had 6 apiece. And there's some very interesting dynamics with all the space in the middle, which was kind of like a good point of control if you could get that, because that could allow you to attack both the east and the north, or sorry, the west and the north, or in the opponent's case, the east and the south. Lots of interesting things and all sorts of ideas. It is still using a lot of conventional crayon things. We didn't even get into stuff like diplomacy, which can get especially interesting on Waterworld if you can pull it off. It's a very high risk, high reward sort of thing, and other stuff that exists here. Really, you got to see the main stuff with a crayon. I wish other tribes could do this though, but you just don't get villages on Waterworld, so please, Mijuan, maybe consider adding suburbs on Waterworld, please. I think it would allow more interesting games like this to happen. You wouldn't have to play a crayon in order to get these neat situations. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Like and sub, and have a good one.